What's up? It's your girl FrumpyFit. If you don't know who I am, I'm an online weight loss coach who's dedicated to calling out all the BS in the fitness industry and providing you with accurate fitness, nutrition, and weight loss information. Today we're reacting to a video called My Weight Loss Journey, How I Lost 30 kilograms, in parentheses, 60 pounds. And this is by a creator named Ecem. I'm pretty sure that's how you pronounce her name. I watched like the very beginning and heard her say it, so hopefully that was right. This video has like over 1 million views, which is wild. I'm sure lots of you have seen it, or at least YouTube has presented it to you to watch. So we're gonna go over it today and see what her advice is. As usual, I am not reacting to the person in this video because I don't know anything about her. I am simply reacting to the information shared in this video. Let's get into it. Okay, and actually, before we fully jump into watching, I did scroll through the comments really quickly and somebody did comment all the tips that she shared. So I've already seen like the tips that she's gonna go over, but I don't know how she's gonna explain them or what she's gonna say about the tips. Just by glancing at the list of the tips, I think that this could end up being a decent video, but we'll see.
Hello guys, welcome to my channel. I'm Ecem and today I'm getting a little bit personal with you, explaining how I managed to lose 30 kilos. Quick little disclaimer, no, I'm not a professional and I will be talking about things like calorie counting, so if that's a sensitive subject for you, please don't watch the video. Your mental health is way more important. A little bit of backstory about myself. I have struggled with my weight my whole life. Now, growing up, I was always the bigger girl in the group and initially my weight didn't bother me. Like I said, as I was always bigger than people my age, I had just accepted that that was my normal and my friends and family had, so you know, I thought there was nothing I could do. As time went on, I kept gaining more and more weight. And I slowly realised that I no longer enjoyed going out with my friends because I didn't want to have to get dressed up or get out of my PJs. I hated the way clothes looked on me. I was no longer taking pictures with my family because I didn't want to see myself in them. So around comes January 2018 and it's a new year. Everyone's making New Year resolutions, you know, new year, new me, all that jazz. And I think to myself, why don't I step on the scale? Prior to this, I hadn't stepped on the scale in ages because I just wanted to avoid the whole weight conversation and the whole weight topic in general. So I stepped on the scale that day and I was 79 kilos. It kind of hit me then and I knew I wanted to make a change. I just remember feeling so guilty that up until that moment I had treated my body so badly. I knew that 6 months down the line, I didn't want to think back to that moment in time and say I should have done something then. I get into bed that day and the first thing I do is I whip out my phone and I go on YouTube. And yes, initially I was searching things like
how to lose weight really fast, how to lose 10 kilos in a month.
But the more I watched other people's videos about weight loss and the more I heard about their rights and their wrongs, I realised this wasn't going to happen in 3 weeks, this wasn't going to happen in 3 months, and that was okay. I needed a lifestyle change to get me to where I wanted to go.
Love that. I think it's so common for somebody who's just getting introduced into even the idea of weight loss, because like it seems like she hasn't even really considered or hadn't even really considered weight loss up until like this moment. So her first introduction is on YouTube, which can either be helpful or extremely hurtful. And the weight loss industry as a whole loves to push these like really dramatic headlines on you, like lose X amount of weight in X amount of time. So it's extremely easy to believe that like that is possible and that's even normal. Like not just like it's possible, but like that's what's supposed to happen. And that's not what's supposed to happen. That's the industry trying to sell you things. So I'm glad she made it to what sounds like the helpful side of YouTube rather than like the hurtful side of the weight loss industry as a whole. And I always love when people share the reason that they're losing weight, like the why of it all, because so many people like don't actually know the reason why. Like she talks about being uncomfortable in her clothes, not wanting to take pictures with her family, but then she also mentions feeling bad for treating her body poorly for such a long time. So I imagine part of the why is also to take care of herself for health. I'm not trying to put words in her mouth, but like I think that's kind of the vibe. And so essentially, like, I'm not anybody to tell you like that your reason for wanting to lose weight isn't good enough. I just think that you should be aware of what that reason is, because so many of us like have these like arbitrary goals that we like don't even know why we have them. I'll use this as an example. When I first started working with a financial planner, this was when I was at like my old job where I had a salary, and I was actually planning to quit to start FrumpyFit. So there was not really very much she could do to help me. She even told me like most businesses like fail, so good luck. Like there's nothing I could do to help you. So that was cool. Look at me now. But one of the first things a financial planner is going to ask you is like, when do you want to retire? What do you want retirement to look like? How much money do you want to retire with? I had no clue. She asked me how much money I wanted to retire with like annually. And I was like, I guess 70K. Cause like I saw some headline or some article that said that like happiness and quality of life kind of increases significantly. And then once you hit 70K, money doesn't have any real impact like on your quality of life overall, or like happiness. I can't remember what the exact wording was, but basically I grew up not poor, but like definitely not fully financially stable or secure. And so that was always just my goal. It's like, I just want to be happy. I want to be financially stable and secure. So I didn't know like what number that would be. I had no idea. So I just was like, I don't know, 70. And so that was like a goal that I had come up with based off of some random article headline. I hadn't really even put any thought into how that fit into my own life or what I really wanted or why that was my goal. I mean, I guess I did put a little bit of thought into it, but weight and like money, they're both like numbers, which is why I thought about that reference. So many people will just say, oh, I want to be a millionaire one day, or oh, I want to be like 100 whatever pounds one day. And it's like, why? Like, what is that going to do for you? Why? And do you really need to achieve that number, whether it's like weight or money, in order to achieve the reason why you want to get to that goal in the first place? So I always tend to rant about weight loss goals and your reason for losing weight and all of that, because not enough people really think it through. And again, you do not need to justify your why to anybody else at all. If you want to be a millionaire because you want a yacht, like, you don't need to justify that. Like, just make sure that it's aligned with you and like who you are as a person. Same thing with weight. If you want 6-pack abs, you don't need to justify that, but just make sure that you understand where that's coming from. And the last thing I'll say is that my fear is that you say you want 6-pack abs and you don't fully think it through, and then you get the 6-pack abs and it turns out that that wasn't actually gonna give you what you thought it would, and then you did all that work for essentially almost nothing. Your happiness and your overall health is important to me. Okay, I'm talking too much.
From that day on, every single day I would go on YouTube or Instagram and I would look up videos and other things about healthy meal ideas and healthy meal options, because I needed to stay motivated. And that would be my first tip for you guys. Use stuff like YouTube and Instagram and other social media platforms to keep you motivated, because motivation is key.
Okay, that was actually one of the tips that I was most worried about when I saw the list of using social media for motivation. So when I first got started in the fitness industry, I was in college. It was my freshman year of getting my degree in exercise science. And so I didn't know anything yet. And I had this like each side of the door. I was rooming with like my best friend since preschool, which was like so fun. But we each had like a bulletin cork board like on our side of like where our beds were. And I printed out, I think I had a printer in my dorm. I like made this like really poorly done collage. It was a poorly done collage of like all this super cringy fitspo, like girls like just sticking their booties out and like really bad quotes about like eat clean, like something lean, like, you know, things that rhyme, and like no pain, no gain, and like all of that stuff. And I think a lot of us like have body goals that we want to achieve. We have somebody that we look up to, of like what like we want to look like them. A lot of times that's what happens when we first get started, and that's very problematic for a lot of people. And I could literally rant about this forever, so I'm going to try to keep it short. But even if you train and eat and live your life in like completely identical to the person that you're looking up to, you still will not look like that person probably. You may be able to get close if your genetics are similar, but chances are you're not going to be able to get there. Like one of my main body goals that I used to have, where I still catch myself like, man, I wish I could look like her, is Gabby Cheyenne. Her quads are magnificent, and the quads are just not in the cards for me genetically. My hamstrings grow really easily, my glutes grow really easily, but I will forever have what I used to so lovingly refer to as chicken legs. I literally used to never wear shorts because I didn't like how small my quads were. That's the danger here, is that you idolize the way that somebody looks, and it's not realistic for you to achieve. So you're just constantly making yourself feel bad that you don't look like that, and you're never going to be able to look like that. So I think it's best not to have body goals and to just focus on being the best version of you. But that's not even what she's talking about. She's just talking about like looking up inspiration for like healthy meals and like more like lifestyle-y stuff, which I like. I think you can fall into a similar trap where like if you're a mom of 3 who works full time, you can't compare yourself to the lifestyle of a fitness influencer because their whole entire job is literally fitness. Like they don't, and if they're single or no children, like you can't really compare that. And so it's easy then to again make yourself feel bad because you aren't meal prepping as consistently as they do. You're not able to work out as frequently as them. I have so many different examples that I could use of like, you shouldn't really compare yourself. And I have a video talking about this in more depth. I need to figure out which one it is and I'll put it right here. Bing. But at the same time, as I'm saying all of this, like using other things as motivation can be very powerful. I love personal development. Like that's the only kind of books that I read lately. I love listening to motivational podcasts, and not just motivational, but like really learning more about like humans and myself and like how we operate. And you have those like really cringy videos that you might see from like Tony Robbins. That's how I get hyped up. And that's what makes me feel like super motivational, especially when I hear other people talking about what they've been able to achieve. But then you can fall in the same boat of like, comparing yourself to somebody who has like achieved so much more than you. So, you know what? It's obviously complicated. Just be careful about where you're getting your sources of motivation. Don't fall into the comparison game. And also the why thing that we were talking about before, your why, that's what I like to use as motivation. You get super clear on the reason why you want to accomplish these goals. And I even have like my course students write out like what they would want their ideal life to look like just write out a day in your life, like the ideal. And you can be super realistic with this ideal, or you can be like, a dreamer and say like really, if I could just build my perfect life, of course, in the realm of like what's possible physically or given the current like technology or whatever, you can then use that as motivation and say like, in order for me to live this day of my absolute dream life, I need to be doing these things right now. So also, if you're interested in learning about my course, you can use the link in the description and pinned in the comments to learn about it, get some money off if you decide to join. And even if you decide not to join, there's a free training. It's like a whole hour of just me teaching you stuff for free. Okay, moving on.
Tip 2 is portion control, and boy was this hard. The whole reason why I had gained weight in the first place was because I just love eating tons and tons of food. Nothing, and I mean nothing, could make me happier than seeing my plate mounded with tons and tons of food. Now for me, the best way I could control my portions was calorie counting. And I know calorie counting is a controversial topic, but like I said, from personal experience, it really was just the best option for me. Now yes, it is important to be in a calorie deficit, but if calorie counting isn't for you, then even keeping a diary of what you're eating in a day really helps with your weight loss journey. I won't be sharing how many calories I stuck to in a day because that is different for everyone. It changes depending on your routine and your lifestyle. So I would just recommend going on an app or a website and working out your own personal estimate. Tracking my calories really helped me be mindful of how much food I was actually overeating and what I was really fueling my body with.
Wholeheartedly agree with every single thing that she said here. I am going to plug a couple of my videos in case you're wanting to dive into some of this stuff. So number 1 actually is, should you even count calories? This reason is called why you shouldn't count calories, because I don't think that it's right for everybody. She's right. And it sounds like it was just the right fit for her, but it might not be the right fit for you. So here's how you can decide if you should maybe count your calories or not. If you do decide to count your calories, I have this video explaining how to calculate them based on your unique needs, like she mentioned. And then if you decide that calorie counting is not right for you, I have this video on mindful eating. And I do talk about food journaling in that video, which it's a tool, in my opinion, to get to mindful eating, where then you don't even need to write stuff down. but literally love everything she just said.
That leads us into tip number 2, which is don't cut out food groups, just find alternatives. Now, when I started tracking my calories, I realized how far from balanced my diet was. I literally lived off of carbs. I wasn't gonna then go and cut carbs completely out of my life because I would have been miserable and it wasn't gonna be maintainable. So what I started doing was I started experimenting and substituting things with healthier options, which I still really enjoyed. White thick bread I started swapping out for these nimble breads that are like 50 calories a slice and still really yummy. That led me to the love of my life, which is corn thins. Oh my god, they are delicious and I love them. My whole family does. And in fact, I don't think we buy bread anymore because everyone just loves them so much. Fiber One bars are a good option. Whenever I would crave a muffin or a chocolate, I would start going for Fiber One bars instead. They are amazing. Pasta, out with white pasta, in with brown, same goes with rice. And for those times I would want something sweet, I would go for Halo Tops. Now, instead of going for my normal Ben & Jerry's, switching it out with Halo Tops made it feel like I was cheating when I really wasn't.
Okay, we're pausing right there because of my cringy facial expression when she talked about Halo Top. So, food swaps and alternatives are great if they actually feel like a good, like valid alternative. For me, I hate brown rice. I despise brown rice. I grew up in Hawaii. White rice was like a staple. You literally eat it at every meal. And so for me, brown rice is an abomination. And I do really like quinoa. I love quinoa, but to me that they're two totally different things. So that's not a valid swap for me personally. It could be a valid swap for you, but that's your goal here, is to not just say like I need to swap everything out with like a healthier or a more calorie friendly alternative, because those two are not always the same thing, like calorie friendly and healthy. It's about figuring out what you can start swapping out. You slowly start to figure out how to make meals that are super delicious that are also going to reach your goals. Like she said, eventually she found these thin thingies, corn thins, I think, that she absolutely loves, but it didn't like happen right away. She tried the 50 calorie bread, then she found these thins, and now it's like, we love them. It's the alternative that she loves. There's so many like random meals and recipes that I've come up with over the years, a lot of times through my bodybuilding times, because you get really creative during that time. But that added creativity allowed me to come up with meals that I still am obsessed with to this day, that I would eat daily on my bodybuilding prep. But the reason that I cringed at the Halo Top is that Halo Top is expensive. It's decent. I like Enlightened better personally, but all those ice cream alternatives, or like the healthy versions, the high protein versions, they are expensive. And if you're down for that, that's cool, but Dreyer's slow churned ice cream, certain flavors are almost identical to the macros of Halo Top. Like you might get 1 gram less of protein and like 1 or 2 grams of carbs higher depending on the flavor that you're looking at, but Dreyer slow churned ice cream is so good, and you get the full like normal size for the same price as like this much Halo Top. Although the flavors of Dreyer slow churned, like the vanilla, the cookies and cream, I can't remember which other flavors match Halo Top a little bit, but ones like butter pecan that are more like decadent, you're gonna get farther away from the Halo Top macros. So another thing is like, don't fall into the hype, like the marketing hype of certain foods. Like some foods are gonna say like super low calorie, like high protein, like blah blah blah, but if you really analyze the nutrition label, you might realize that they're not actually that great, or you can get away with foods that are not labeled that way that are very similar and usually much more affordable because they're not being marketed as being like this wholly incredible alternative. So those are my thoughts.
Experiment and find options that you can substitute that you still enjoy. Tip 4 is using a smaller plate. Now I know this doesn't sound like anything, but trust me, this is a small but mighty tip. Switching to a smaller plate automatically cuts down how much food you're eating, because come on, how much food can you really fit on a small plate? But the thing is, it still looks like a load of food. So with me, I was still happy because I saw loads of food on my plate, but I was also cutting down the calories I was eating, and in my books that is a win-win.
Okay, I don't mind this tip. I mean, I love doing this with like bowls, especially with things like ice cream or cereal. We do tend to fill the space available when it comes to putting things on our plate. So if you have an issue with overloading your plate, could be a good idea to switch to smaller plates. And here's the thing too, like I can see how some people may be like, ick, that sounds a little bit disordered. However, if you're forcing yourself to only eat like a certain portion of food, like on this tiny little plate, that could be considered maybe disorder for some people. But the way that I look at it is like you can literally go back for seconds if you need to. So if you are wanting to try this out, like just tell yourself like, look, I'm just gonna fill this plate up right now. I'm gonna eat this, I'm gonna wait a little bit. And then if I'm still hungry, I can go get more food, like no big deal. But you may get to a point where you don't even notice that you're eating less food because you're no longer just eating everything that's sitting in front of you on a big plate. You're eating everything that's in front of you. So you still get that feeling of satisfaction of like finishing a full plate of food, but it's less and you just didn't even notice. The way that I think about it is like if somebody else was serving you and you wouldn't notice that it was less, like that's kind of the sweet spot to start off. It's also reminding me of like those, I've seen like videos where they are teaching kids about like volume. Am I losing it? It's like in my head, I'm just seeing like this little kid sitting in front of these glasses and the adult is like, which one is bigger? Which one holds more? And they're pointing to the one that's like a certain like size and shape, but then when you pour it into the other one, it's literally the exact same amount of fluid, but the kid like refuses to acknowledge that they're the same amount of fluid because the shape and the size of the cups are different. Like that's kind of what you're doing with this. It's just like I don't know. Am I losing it? Does anybody else know what I'm talking about?
Tip 5 is volume. Now greens and veg have so much more volume to the same amount of calories. So what I started doing was instead of having a big bowl of pasta, I would have a big bowl of salad topped with pasta. So it still looked like I was having a load of food and I was still really full after my meal, but I was cutting down the calories without even realizing.
Okay, so I do like this tip. This is a tip that I give, but there is a caveat. You can't just eat like tons of volume, like empty volume. A lot of like high volume foods, like we're talking about a big salad, that's gonna have like fiber, which can help fill you up. But if you're literally just eating a pile of lettuce, even if it's a huge pile of lettuce, you may not feel full or satisfied from that meal. We also have people who, if they eat more veggies, like I've done consultations with people who are like, I try eating more veggies, but like I literally get so bloated and my digestion gets all effed up. Like it's possible to have too much fiber from fruits and veggies, by the way. So when we're talking about a big salad, I would love to see some protein on there involved and some fat. Usually we can get some fat from the salad dressing, depending on what salad dressing you're using, adding some cheese on top, some avocado. There are a bunch of ways to kind of just dress up your salad, even if it's a huge one, to make it more satisfying. So it's like volume in combination with also being wise about hunger and satiety, which I actually have a whole video about how to not be totally starving when you're in a calorie deficit and losing weight. So check that out.
Tip 6, water, water, water. Now, yes, I know everyone says this, but I've tested it and it's true. Sometimes when I started to feel like I was hungry or I would get the fidgets to go get a snack, what I would do is have some water, give myself 15 or 20 minutes, and usually that hunger feeling would go down because I was actually just thirsty. If I was still hungry after the 20 minutes, then of course I'm gonna go eat. But like I said, usually I was just thirsty.
First of all, getting the fidgets for a snack, that's my new favorite phrase, and I'm gonna use it forever. I'm having the fidgets for a snack. I'm getting the fidgets for a snack. I just love that. I agree. So the water tip can be very problematic. It was another tip that I was a little bit worried about when I just saw the list. It's like, oh, when you have a craving, just drink water. Like, just keep drinking water. Drink a gallon of water. It's like, okay, like water is great, water is fine, but like you're gonna be in situations where water is not the solution to your problems when it comes to like cravings or being hungry. And I think that this can sometimes also slip into like disordered territory, is if every time you're hungry, you're like, oh no, I just need water, and that's all you let yourself have. So happy to hear her say, like, if I'm still hungry after the water, I eat. Like that's the key. Like if it doesn't work, don't just keep drinking more water.
Tip 7, sharing. Oh my god, this is a game changer. Now, before I hated sharing. When someone would ask me for some of my food, I would get so angry because I just hated sharing my food. It was mine. All this time, sharing was a benefit for me. So those times when I would crave like a tiramisu or a cheesecake, what I would do is, yes, I would let myself indulge every now and then, but I would get one and I would share it with someone, and usually that was my mum. But yeah, sharing just helped me satisfy my sweet tooth whilst cutting down some of the calories that I would have been having previously.
I like this tip. I agree. Like, getting into a relationship with my now husband was really great because I mean, we started going out way more than I ever was by myself. Those of us who are fresh into relationships or in relationships know, like, usually when you're getting to know that person, there's a lot of going out to eat. And so now we're married, we live together. I love this aspect of being in a relationship, is that like we get to share a lot of things. And so my husband loves food. I've been in many a situation where I go to the refrigerator to eat something that I'm excited about and it just gone because he ate it. So one of the biggest adjustments for us moving in together was our sleep schedules and also having to share food. Still working on it. TBH. So now our dessert sharing strategy is that one person gets to divide it in half. We pre-divide it to avoid, because I eat tiny bites, he eats huge bites. So he can eat like 2 bites and eat like half of it, and I'm eating tiny bites. So, and he eats just faster than me because of the bite size discrepancy. So our strategy to make sure it's fair is before we start eating the dessert, one of us will cut it in half and then the other person gets to pick which half they want, because that encourages fairness, you know? Because like if the other person gets to pick which half they get, then the person cutting it is gonna be like, okay, I'm gonna make sure this is half. Because if you make one side bigger, then the other person's gonna pick the bigger side. So that's what we do when it comes to sharing desserts. We have kind of turned it into a game where you're like, okay, I gotta get it as close to half as possible, and you're like watching the other person cutting it. I don't know, it's fun. But also, if you don't have anybody else to share it with yourself, okay? So one of my favorite things, and I talk about this in my eating out, like how to eat out and still stay on your weight loss goals video, is taking leftovers. Like, a lot of us think that when we have something like dessert or we go out to eat, this is like the moment, like I need to have it right now. And because this is a special food or a food that is high calories or more calorie dense, they're like, okay, I'm gonna have it now and then I'm gonna get back on track tomorrow. I personally would prefer to see you take those leftovers, honor your hunger in the moment, practice portion control, because restaurants and eating out, it's like the portions are wild usually. This is the pros of this. You get to practice mindful, portioned eating. And the next day, you get to have it again, which is like amazing. I would rather somebody have the meal, like the eating out meal or the dessert 2 days in a row, and have those be actual decent portions rather than like stuffing yourself in that one meal because you think you shouldn't have it 2 days in a row. So just an alternative perspective to think about when it comes to dessert and eating out.
Tip 8 is sticking to a schedule. Now this helped me really fix up my eating pattern, because before it was a mess. I would plan the time of the day when I intended on eating, and every single day I would usually stick to this plan. Now this changes from person to person. It depends on your routine. It was different when I was in school and it's different now that I'm at home. I usually tend to have breakfast around 12, lunch around 4 and dinner around 7:30, and I have around 2 snacks a day. I stick to this schedule pretty much every day. Usually I do stop eating around 8 o'clock because I found that sticking to a schedule and stopping at 8 helps me digest my food much easier, especially my last meal, because dinner can be heavier sometimes. And with a green tea before bed, I would wake up in the morning feeling so much less bloated and so much more positive.
Okay, just a couple of things here. I don't mind this tip. I think it's a good tip. Not all of us can stick to a strict schedule like this, but it might be helpful. The thing that I see most helpful about sticking to a schedule is that you can really learn about like how food is impacting you throughout the day. You can learn to put together a breakfast that keeps you full until lunch. You can just better understand food when you're in the rhythm of it. Whereas if everything is a little bit sporadic, it can be harder to really understand why things are happening, why you're hungry. I like the idea of a schedule if you can swing it. The other thing that I want to touch on is stopping eating by 8 p.m. If you want to do that, that's fine. But it's a huge myth that you shouldn't eat like right before bed because then all your food will get stored as fat. That's not true. The main issue though is if you are eating so much too close to bed, that you are decreasing your quality of sleep, like your body can't relax because it's like digesting all this food, then poor quality sleep, even if you're getting enough duration of sleep, if the quality is poor, you may notice that you are extra hungry or extra cravey the next day, because poor quality sleep or lack of sleep can impact hunger hormones, leptin and ghrelin, and that'll make it harder for you to stick to whatever plan you're attempting when it comes to your diet.
Tip 9 is don't eat while standing up. Now, I'm pretty sure everyone does this. Whilst we're in the kitchen getting something ready, we tend to throw things in our mouth without realizing that this can actually add to quite a lot of calories throughout the day. Even just cutting out this habit of eating whilst you're standing reduces the calories you're eating a day without you even realizing. Now, it was midway through March and I had already lost 6.5 kilos. I was really happy, but I did feel like I wanted to see some more progress, so I realized I got to start exercising.
So this kind of, to me, falls in the snacking category, although it also can, like, I know some people, like, I think especially parents, I know my dad, like, literally always ate standing up in the kitchen. And if it's a planned meal, of course, it's better to, like, sit down, enjoy your meal, like, don't be distracted, you know, blah, blah, blah. Of course, again, do what you can. But if this is snacking, which it kind of sounds like what she's talking about, like, I mean, I'm notorious for this too, like, about snacking on things, like, as I'm cooking dinner, makes no sense, but I have a snacking tips video if you're struggling in general with snacking. Okay, back to her talking about exercising.
I hated exercising. I lived 10 minutes from my school and I would still make my parents
drop me off and pick me up,
every single day because I wasn't bothered to walk 10 minutes. Now, I wasn't then gonna go and get a gym membership because was I really gonna go? No. But what I realized was the idea of working out at home didn't really bother me because I could just do my workout, quickly have a shower and then get straight back into bed. So that's what I done. I started working out at home. Now, obviously I began at a very easy level and I slowly increased the intensity. I personally love doing home HIIT workouts, but you really just have to find something you enjoy doing yourself. What I'm trying to say here is you don't need a gym membership, especially when the current situation is the way it is right now. It's just finding something you enjoy doing that you can add into your routine. That doesn't make exercising feel like a hassle.
Totally agree. This was filmed January 2021, so earlier this year when the pandemic was still like, I mean, it's still kind of happening, but it's not as like intense. So yeah, I totally agree. Finding something that's enjoyable and that works for you is the #1 priority when it comes to exercising. And she mentioned I started off slow and then like kind of went up in intensity as she got like better. That's what you're supposed to do. In my brain, exercise science, like ex-personal trainer kind of brain, like that's what we aim for. You're not gonna like go into the gym and pick up the heaviest weight right at the beginning. Like the same is true when it comes to like HIIT workouts or anything else. Now that doesn't mean you should just be like, you know, doing the easiest workout possible in the beginning. You should still be challenging yourself, but you're not gonna be doing like expert level workouts in the beginning. It's just not realistic. And you'll be surprised how quickly that you'll improve in either strength, endurance, like whatever it is that you're working on, whatever kind of exercises you're doing, you'll improve very quickly if you're consistent. And it's so fun and exciting to see how your body can adapt.
That's it really. That's all I done. I didn't try and kill myself at the gym trying to burn off calories or stick to a really hard diet that was going to make me feel miserable. I just tried to change habits that I already had in my routine that was going to lead to a lifestyle change that was going to lead to my weight loss.
I love this. I feel like a lot of you who watch this video may have kind of like glossed over what she just said, but the key to being successful, especially long term, like when you see people who lose the weight and keep it off, is making sure that the changes that you make are enjoyable. I always see people who are like, it's a lifestyle change, like blah, blah, blah. I get that, I understand, but so many of us want to change to fit what we think it's supposed to look like versus taking the principles of nutrition and exercise and like fitting them into your life. So it's likely gonna be some sort of lifestyle change, but the goal is to keep your lifestyle as close to something that would kind of be your normal. It's gonna be different for everybody depending on like your starting point. You should just make sure that your lifestyle is enjoyable. And that's also why I have my course students do their ideal day in a life, so they can get very clear on what they want their lifestyle to look like, and then how they can fit exercise and nutrition into that.
Now, January 2019, I weighed in at 49 kilos, so I had lost around 30, and honestly, it was the best thing I could have done for myself, both physically and mentally. The outcome is so worth it, so please just stick to it, guys. Stay motivated, and I'm pretty sure if I could do it, then anyone can.
Okay, that's the end of the video. I mean, she just said that January 2019 she weighed in at that kind of ending weight, and she posted this January 2021. So that means that she kept the weight off for like 2 years, which is an incredibly good sign that these tips are legit. Okay, so overall, really great video. Nothing that really stood out to me as a red flag. We had a couple of little rants there in the beginning, but they weren't necessarily like what she was saying or what she meant. It just like reminded me of some potential issues that I have seen in those potential categories. So anyway, as usual, guys, thank you so much for watching and supporting the channel. It means the absolute world to me. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe here. You can also follow me on TikTok and on Instagram, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.